Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 2 of my Transport Fever Let's Play here on the Orkney Islands. My name is Bigfoot, and today we are going to really try and continue on where we left off from the last episode. Just a quick recap on the last episode. We managed to go ahead and connect up 2 islands. 2 islands had 2 towns in them. We managed to connect those together with some basic bus routes, and then we also started to turn some crude oil into fuel and provide that to 2 towns as well. That provided us with some really badly needed money. As we're starting on hard mode, we only have 3.5 million, and unfortunately that's not going to get us too far when we've got lots of islands and lots of docks we need to build to connect them up. My original plan in the last episode was to connect up a few islands beside each other, but I did get distracted by cargo, so that is my plan for today. In this episode, I want to connect up the already connected towns of Brenin and Soren with Egglesey and Weir. This will require me going ahead and building some boats, which will require docks on either end, and I also probably want to put bus routes on Weir and Egglesey itself. I also want to go ahead and just check on the capacity of my existing routes and really try and expand them, because that is our base, that is our moneymaker to start with. So if there is an opportunity to expand the capacity, I'm going to, because I need to get cheap money. And that is where we'll start. Before we get started on the live gameplay, I just want to bring our attention to the balance sheet as of current, and it's not looking great, to be honest. We can see that we've got one bus route barely in the profit, and then we've got the crude oil routes also barely in the profit. The good thing is that I know there is quite a bit of demand for this. I am expecting all of these routes to go into profit quite quickly, and they're really not that far off anyway, outside of the bus route between Grobster and Whitehall, but I think that will really increase quite quickly, especially when we're providing fuel to both towns. So let's go ahead and get into some gameplay. So I've decided to go ahead and start this episode with a bit of a time lapse, and the reason for this is that I want to start off by focusing on infrastructure. I realised that in the last episode while editing it, infrastructure, just laying it down, takes a long time, and I wasn't actually making too much progress. So if I can go ahead and speed some of that up, I will. I started this episode though before doing the infrastructure changes, was just going and checking out the demand on some of the routes and seeing that, okay, I can quite easily move more crude oil to supply more fuel to towns, which is perfect. And I did that because I reckon that'll probably be my most profitable route to start with. It's going to be supplying fuel to 2 towns, so it is a real backbone. I then went ahead and started the infrastructure changes, which was essentially building multiple docks so I can connect a few of the islands, like I said in the intro. However, this was a real challenge because the map itself, all of the coast, unfortunately it just like drops off 5 meters right at the end, so that meant every dock that I had to build cost me about 250,000, which is quite a lot considering I only had about 1.25 million at the start of this episode. So what I did was I built 2 of my docks, and then I decided to take out a loan. Now a loan, it's going to happen multiple times, especially when we're starting off by building some basic infrastructure. A lot of these docks on these islands will be used long term, pretty much to the end game. I doubt they'll really change too much unless I make like a mega port or something, but this is really useful, but it is required, so I think a loan is justified here. And I only took a loan out of $1 million, or I'm not too sure what the currency is in game actually, but I took a loan out of $1 million, and the reason for that is so that the interest payments are low, because again that's something which I'm sort of worrying about. I don't want to be paying and losing unnecessary money when I can go ahead and just quite easily save some. So with that done, that's me gone ahead and built 3 different docks, which will be quite useful. One for Egglesey, one for Weir, and then one also for the island which has Surin and Brenin on it. Where I have placed a dock is down at Brenin, which I believe is the pronunciation. I do feel I keep saying that word differently, but hey ho. Then on the island of Weir and the island of Egglesey, those are not actually the island names, those are the town names on the island. I went ahead and added in bus routes because I really need these boats to be profitable. These boats as well, when we do go ahead and add them in the live play, they're going to cost about 250,000 each, so I really need the passengers to be using them, and for that I've added bus routes onto the islands just to make sure they are well connected. I then also at the end just went ahead and re-went over the capacity of some of the bus routes and some of the cargo, and I increased it by even more. So welcome to the live gameplay for today's episode. We start off with, I actually want to readdress an issue that we went over in the time-lapse first of all, and that is just the demand here, because there's been a slight change. So, the price sheet which you've seen, it's already drastically changed. We're already into the profits on all of our lines. In saying that, the values aren't very high, but they're not necessarily going to be, just because we're dealing with different money values, different margins than we are compared to later game, and probably what I'm usually used to. I'm usually used to seeing lines in like the millions, early millions. We're not really going to get to that. If we get a successful line at 50k, that's a really good line at this time period anyway. But the real thing I want to draw you to, the excitement, is we have a new road vehicle. We have the Post Bus. This can carry an extra 2 passengers and can go an extra 4 miles per hour. The next concern that I have then is, are our roads capable of supporting this? Now that is not the case. So right now we're mainly using small streets. As we can see, we're connecting up these two towns here, the town of Brunine and Soren. And that's only using a small street, 12 miles per hour. So, to allow us to increase the capacity, which I really think is worth it on this route, one, because there's demands, but also two, it is our second most profitable route, and I reckon it can become really profitable, we need to go ahead and upgrade the road as well. If I do select the vehicle, and then I do turn automatic replacement on now and replace now, that costs 171k. Again, I think it's justified. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to do some road upgrading. The good thing is with this game is that often I suppose it is the AI, goes ahead and does some of the road placement and upgrading for you. Unfortunately in this case right now though, it hasn't done, which is a bit unfortunate. But that upgrading of roads really doesn't cost that much at all, to be honest. It's a very, very small price to pay. But that should hopefully go ahead and deal with that. Let's go ahead and look at boats though, because that was one of the main things we focused on in the time lapse, and I think it's a good opportunity to go get started with them. Certainly, end of the last episode we looked at passenger boats, and we really only have two kinds here. We have a 50 passenger boat costing 216k, the Rigi, and then we've also got the Front Enac, which is much larger, but also much more pricier. The speed difference is really only 2 miles per hour, so I'm going to go for the Rigi. Rigi's also got a much lower running cost, and until I've got the demand, there's no need for the Front Enac at all, I don't think. I do expect there to be better boats to come out as time goes on though. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But let's go ahead and just connect up these routes. What we're going to do is we're going to start with Weir. And realistically, I could probably use the one boat for these two routes if this game allowed that, but unfortunately it doesn't, so I'm going to have a boat which is going back and forwards non-stop, which I feel is a bit silly. But hey ho. What we'll actually do instead, first of all, is actually create the bus routes, just because if we can get the bus route going from the start, then we can go ahead and start to create a bit of demand for the boat quicker, which will be good. So very, very easy to do. I'm just going to name this route. So we've got the bus route around the island of Weir. I'll need to update this as this town grows, and I do expect it to grow relatively quickly. Not because it's the best connected, but it is in close proximity to another large town, and also with the ports now. And we can possibly, I would quite like to get some cargo onto some of these smaller islands as well, just to help them grow. So that is that bus route there, and I guess I want to do the exact same over here on Egglesey as well. So if we jump in here and we go ahead and connect up, we're just going to do a circle because I think that's the best bet here as well. So I'll very quickly name this route, and there we have it, the BU Egglesey. The good thing is as well, we've still got lots of unique colours at this stage anyway, so the map's going to look really, really nice. As we go on though, I think the unique colours are unfortunately going to disappear. The final thing we need to do is go ahead and put buses onto the routes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start off with the loaders on these small island just because I'm not really expecting much demand, and to also save myself some money, I'm only going to give them 3 buses. I really doubt that a town of 115 people is really going to have 18 people travelling at once, and even if it is, the frequency I can imagine of that route, it's already at 123 seconds, so I expect that to drop as well when it actually completes a few laps, probably down to near 100 seconds. Here on Egglesey, it is a bit of a bigger route, but I actually only have money really for 2 buses actually, which isn't good, so we're going to go ahead and dip into the bank again. We're going to borrow 1.5 or so million there, and the reason for that is just so I can get 4 buses for Egglesey here, which I think is a good idea, but I also need to buy some boats and then have money left over for whatever I want to do next, which is a good question. I don't know what I want to do next, so we'll cross that bridge in a second. Let's go ahead and create the final shipping routes though. Just a very simple connect up, and I can't even guess what we're gonna have here. The connection time between Brennan and over the water to Weir. I mean, surely the route's gonna take like 10-15 seconds at the most. So that's just got the BO from Brennan to Weir, and then from the other side of the Brennan dock we will connect up to Egglesey. Seems that Transport Fever is not liking when I actually click on the individual terminals. It freezes for a second or two, which is not new. I've had that issue quite a bit before actually. It's something which, I mean, I can imagine that they're going to really overhaul the water transport for the next Transport Fever. It's not perfect in this game. By no means it's not awful. Like airplanes in this game are really bad. You can never make them consistently profitable, but boats definitely could do a lot better, and I'm sure they will be in the next Transport Fever. Anyway, let's go ahead and buy a ship. I'm just going to go for the Rigi on both of these, to be honest, just because of the reasons I said earlier. So let's go ahead and put one onto our orange route and then one onto our brown route, and that is us good to go. So that is the 2 boats now into action. We'll see how they get on. I'm a bit concerned, to be honest, because I feel this could actually be quite a money loser at the start here, but we'll see how things go. We really need to just speed up the game, which we'll do momentarily. Even with these new buses, I'm still getting a crazy amount of people waiting to go in between these towns, which gives me the feeling that I should maybe go ahead and add in even more buses, which sounds like a good idea in theory, but we're already, I mean, we might as well. I feel we've really got nothing to lose here. We'll add in another 1-2 buses. I'll not probably add any more in, but I mean, there's so many people waiting, it is just a missed opportunity. All the buses are full. I mean, you're already full, and you've still got to stop at this bus stop here, which is St John's Road, and then you've still got to stop at West Street, which has got 26 people waiting alone, which is quite a lot. So, and then similarly up here at Surin as well actually, so yeah, I definitely think those 2 buses are justified. We've interestingly got about 20 people waiting to leave the town, and again this bus is already full, so it can't pick any of them up. Eventually at one stage I will probably connect up Surin to Egglesey as well, but the time is not now, just because of budget constraints. I also want to see how these boats fare first of all before we go ahead and start to build too many boat routes. Okay, so let's leave the, I don't know what you call these 3 islands collectively actually. They probably should get a name, but let's move back over to where we have started off with some crude oil harvesting. It's a similar situation. I've already upgraded this in the time lapse, but I think the amount of fuel that Grobster is taking, I mean, it's only 4%, which really is quite low. Actually, it's up to 23 now, so that's not too bad at all. We're already fulfilling 11 out of 48 in total there. Whitehall, I can imagine, is doing a bit better actually. That's 20 out of 64 at 31%, which is good. And then we've got quite a bit to move as well, which is, yeah, we have a lot to move actually. Well, considering that's around about 20 each, we just need to get more trucks over here again. And the crazy thing is, that's my loan already spent. I cannot believe it. Right, let's go ahead and add one into Grobster. Let's add another one into Whitehall, and then let's add maybe another 2 on to the crude oil route itself, and we can possibly start to think about exporting, because that will make us quite a bit of money. The only problem is we would need to have a cargo dock, not a normal dock, and I can only imagine that's also going to cost us another 250,000, which doesn't fill me of happiness, to be honest. Yeah, and I'm going to need to build one at each end, which that's going to cost another 250k, and then I'm going to need a cargo boat, which I'm really not sure too much about cargo boats actually. I can imagine they're probably more expensive than normal boats. Yeah, they are, jeez oh. So I mean, we would probably actually use this Zoroaster. That costs another I mean, you're talking about 750k just for that. I do feel that that would yield a bit of profit, but I'm going to leave it for the time being and try and look at something else. One thing I would say is that I've not really managed to have a look at the feedback from the last episode yet. I'm recording this episode in advance just because I'm on some travels right now, so I hope the first episode's gone down well. I'm sure it has, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the feedback and making this a feedback-driven campaign. Right, I'm thinking as well here with the buses. I think buses over here are in a similar situation, so let's go ahead and jump into the route here. Let's go and replace with the post bus. Let's turn automatic replacement on and upgrade. Then 3 minutes as well is not a great frequency, so let me go ahead and add on 1, 2, 3 more buses onto that route as well, and again that'll just help people getting moving around. Okay, so let's move away from here because I want to go ahead and connect up the next 2 towns now. Up here we've got Eddy, which is a really big island actually, and it's got a fair amount of industry. We've got a forest which we can move over to, and we have planks over there. Interestingly, I've just had a thought, I can't actually really do anything, can I, with planks? Because planks are used to either make goods or tools, I believe, from what I can remember, but we really don't have any need. Huh. Right, well that's interesting. I'm going to leave it in for now. I have realised my mistake here. So what we might do at a later stage is bring in more industry or just entirely remove it. Let me know in the comment section below. It really depends how the series is going. I'm going to leave them in for now, but that just means we have to focus on fuel and food, which is quite nice actually. We do have 2 processing plants up there, but there's no farm near here. We've also got some crude oil over here. That could be shipped, but there's not really much need. It's over there. We've got another 2 processing plants on the island with the town of Balfour. Then we're getting quite close to the mainland here, aren't we? Though there is a lot of nice stuff in close proximity here. What about down here in the south? What have we got? We've got some farms. We've got a processing factory over there. Though these towns are quite far apart over here actually. It's interesting, a quarry as well. I've really not done a good job, have I? Okay, right. I am unsure where we're going to go. We're going to jump over here anyway, and I think we're going to connect these 2 towns up of Braeswick and Kettletop, just because they're quite close to each other. I also feel that Braeswick, I mean, they're decent sized towns. They've got over 100 population each, which is quite good. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by building a medium road off the bat. If I can go ahead and again try and make this quite a cheap process as well, then that would be perfect. So let us go ahead and follow the contour lines. We're probably going to pay a lot. I was about to say 300,000. There's no way we're paying that for that small section of road. If we come down here gradually, realise this might not be the most entertaining, but we need to maximise our cash. If we run that in there, that's 34k. That's those two towns connected up, which is good. So it's time to go ahead and build some more buses. I can imagine this could be a train route very, very quickly. I can imagine these two towns, I can imagine Whitehall and Grobstar will be connected up by trains, and then possibly also Brennan and Soran as time goes on as well. And then the mainland is going to be lots of trains. This is really where our trains are going to really help us out and make us quite a lot of money. Though again, because I can't have a lot of bridges, there can't actually be a lot of train lines on the island unless there is a town or an island with two towns on it, should I say. So let's jump over here. I'm going to also put the game onto ×3 so we can actually try and generate a bit more cash. Let's go ahead and round this town and add in some more bus stops. I realise there's two bus stops really close together there, but that's only going to be 5 in this town, which I think should be fine for now. And then if we follow the road round to Kettle Toft, we're going to add in an additional road. One which comes round to there, and then one which arches around the back there. We'll have a bus stop on arrival, then we'll have a bus stop going around the outside. We'll come along the top. We're not going to go down this road towards the peninsula. I think that'll do actually, those 4. That covers the town quite well. So that is us set and ready to go. I feel we could do a bit better here actually in Braeswick. And I think I am. I'm going to get rid of this stop here. And then that's going to involve demolishing houses though, and I have literally no money, which is a real disaster. Right, let's build the route and let's deal with the money in a second. Probably not the best approach, but hey ho. And we've also got our first colour I don't like as well, because you really can't see it well on the roads. Let's also go around this town anti-clockwise for a change. Back into Windsor Road, and then if we come back down into New Street, which we are, then we are set there. So let me just very quickly go ahead and name this. And there we have it. So we just need to go ahead and build some buses. Now because there's no demands and because we're strapped for cash, again I'm going to borrow another 500,000. I feel like I'm just throwing money away right now. I'm not throwing money away, but I feel I'm building a lot right now because I'm just trying to get some core infrastructure in. But we are going to start out with Lorders just because we are strapped for cash. Let's actually get a few more. Let's get 7 on there. So that's quite a bit, and that should really get us ticking. So while that demand builds up, we'll fly back over to Whitehall. I feel this bus route can definitely now be expanded in with this town, because Whitehall has grown quite a bit. If we very quickly look at our towns, and then if we filter by population, we can already see Kirkwall is at 475. Kirkwall is the capital of the Orkney Islands, so I expect that to be quite large. It is already very, very well spread out, but this will probably be one of the later towns I want to connect up to, just because it's doing so good already. But then we've got Surin as the second biggest town, not really too surprised at that. And then we've also got Whitehall, which again I'm also not surprised at that, and that's why I want to make some amendments here. So if we jump back into our routes, you can really see we're not covering a lot of the town at all here. So let's go ahead and expand upon that, and expanding upon this is really nice and cheap as well. So if we stop in there, and then we maybe stop there, and then if we call into, we're going to actually remove a bus stop entirely. If we call there and there. Right, so what I need to do is I need to open up the route, and if we close the line manager, then from 8, actually no, let's go from 6, we want to go up to the new George Street, we then want to call it Broadway, want to call it York Road, then we want to call it New Road, and then we want to get rid of Chester Road, I believe, because I think that's the best approach. All those people can just shuffle over to York Road for the time being. And there we go. Now the only downfall is this means that we're going to have an increased capacity, which are not an increased capacity, we're going to have a higher demand for the same amount of capacity, is really our problem. Grobster, could change it up, and I think I will do the same while we're at it here actually. So let's just go ahead, and I want to add in an additional stop, probably maybe here, for example, and we could actually add another one in over here as well. The town's growing out this way. That's a really nice building. Oh no, it's not. It looked like a church from up above actually. It's just a normal plain building, so not too exciting. Right, let's jump back into the editor here, and if I can work this out, so from one high street, let's stop in there at Springfield Road, and then on stop 14 before Kingsway, let's stop at 15 at Queen Street. So that's just a small expansion, but again, we have increased the route with the same, increased the demands, but with the same amount of buses. 145 seconds, we can definitely improve upon that, so let's get another 2 buses in here, and again, that's us spent that 500k already. Absolutely madness, and we've got a lot of fuel to clear. This is crazy. What's your production rate? Your production rate's only level 82, which is crazy. I'm very surprised at that. I need bigger lorries, that's really what I need. We're coming up to 1909, so there might actually be an unlock, because we've not had a freight unlock yet. We've also gone down to 2 vehicles, so one of them must have, its date must have expired, which is interesting. Also, so yes, we have rolled into the next year very quickly actually, just because we're on ×3, but I'm financially negative. That's not good at all. If we have a look at the year on year, first of all in the charts, you can see that population and jobs and shopping facilities are climbing very steadily. Tracks, that is no good. I do want to check finances though, look at this a bit closer. So you can see where my mouse are. Generally our total has been pretty poor, just because we are paying so much money. Our loan interests are going up steadily. It's gone up 50k since 1906, pretty much the start of this episode, just because we've been taking so much more of a loan. The thing is though, is that our running costs are going up quite a bit considerably. They've gone up year on year. I feel as well that the docks are actually quite busy at both ends as well. We've got 50 people waiting over in Egglesey, which is crazy. That also probably means then that a bus has really kicked off. And I remember I said we only got one person travelling there actually, but yeah, that was in the negative. Not by much, honestly. And there is some, I guess it really depends what part of town. We've got, 2 full buses, we've got 1 half full, and then we've got, it's quite a variation, I can imagine that the closer it gets round to the dock stop, which is really Main Street here, then it gets busier, then it gets quieter again. But I suppose if we are dropping off like 25 people, we can probably see this bus stop here. It's just filling up, so the time the bus comes back around, which it just has done, it's taken 6 more people away, so I can see that this is going to be a real success as well over on Egglesey. The one thing I really am struggling to do though is catch the demands. It's just crazy, it's just going through the roof. So what I will do is I will probably do another time lapse at the start of the next episode and try and deal with that. But ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up this episode, I just want to have another quick look at the balance sheet. Where we started from this episode to where we're at now, the Brennan to Surin bus route over at our top left there, it's at 49,000. Our crude oil is doing extremely well at 25,000. Then we've got a variety of other routes which are doing well or are about to do very well. I've got some frequency issues that I definitely need to sort out. I've only got, it looks like, 2 vehicles providing fuel to Grobster, which is way too low. But we'll sort all that out in the next episode. And that next episode will be out on Monday. From now on, hopefully we'll get down to 2 or 3 videos a week. I have been travelling, as I have said, on my Twitter and on my Discord, but now it's time to get into the meat and juice of this and really start to accelerate things. We managed to achieve what I wanted to in this episode. We managed to connect up Brennan with the islands of Weir and Egglesey. That was very important, and we can already see the demand in with this area flowing. We've also pretty much completed this part of the map now outside of goods, so they're not really going to have too much more transport changes anytime soon. Yes, capacity will grow. We might see a railway line in between Brennan and Surin at some stage if demand keeps rising. However, I will need a lot more money for that. And maybe long term we might also see some air aviation, but because we're only in the early 1900s, that is going to be no time soon. We also managed to go ahead and connect up the towns of Brestwick and Kettletoft, which is on an island at the very top. Those are the only two towns up there, so I wouldn't say that is completed by any means. We're going to need to connect that island up with ships, possibly to Whitehall in the next episode. I do actually want to jump to the other side of the map and try and connect up some of the southern Orkney Islands, just so we keep everything going at a steady pace. I do want to say a massive thank you to everybody who viewed the first episode. It really did exceed my expectations. A week after it has been uploaded, it's on over 100 views. We've got 12 likes and a lot of discussion. Discussion on the YouTube video itself, but also on my Twitter and on my Discord mainly, which has been super interesting. It's great to get feedback, and please keep giving me more. Feedback on the new video format as well has gone down really well. I'm really enjoying creating these maps and really trying to stitch this up to become a story. As we can see with the transitions in the background, I'm really liking how we're seeing our progress, and I just can't wait for like 10 episodes time when we do longer term comparisons. We made a lot of good progress in this episode though, as we can see, and I can't wait to see what we achieve in the next episode. That is all for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Please go ahead and check out the description below, leave a like rating and subscribe if you are new around here. Check out my Twitter, my Discord and my Patreon, and a massive shout out to Nicole H for supporting me over there. Any support you can show me on any of those is greatly appreciated. That's all for this video. I'll see you on Monday in episode number 3.